When you dealt with losses in the past, how did you pick yourself back up? Because that is the hardest thing to do, not as just an athlete, but a professional fighter.
You know, it is one of the hardest things to do. It's not just like, like that day, like the next day. It's all the way until you win again. It's all the way until you prove to yourself that you didn't perform up to your capabilities, and you're better than that. So it's not just a week or two. It's like you're in the state of you don't believe you're the man you thought you were, and so it's challenging, but it makes me grind hard, and that's what I do, bro. I try to handle adversity, the only way I know how, and that's just to keep working, keep trying to get better, and try to remind myself that I am the person who I think I am. But I'm telling you, just like I told you when I was a kid, I had that dumb confidence. And so even though I've been humbled many times, I still think that I'm capable of achieving these things that I set out to achieve when I started.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions, the podcast where we dive deep with entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals shaping their industries. My guest is a man who is making major moves both inside and outside the fight game. My guest is a professional MMA fighter, known for his relentless grit and skill. He's also a promoter and the founder of Central Coast Fighting Championship. His organization is about giving young fighters a stage to shine and advance their careers. He also has a fight booked, and it's coming up very fast. On December 14th, he'll step into the cage as the main event at Fight Night San Jose, taking place at the Tech CU Arena. And trust me, this man is known for performing under those bright lights. But here's what's really impressive. Just a month later, on January 18th, he is back to business, hosting the Central Coast Fighting Championship event at the Santa Cruz Civic Auditorium. He's not just competing in the fight game, he's creating a space for young, aspiring fighters to shine as well. In this conversation, we'll explore how he balances being a professional athlete and a forward-thinking entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Daniel Compton.
My childhood was awesome, to be honest. Like most people would say, I'm very spoiled. My older brother was an athlete, and so I wanted to be an athlete. My parents weren't very athletic, but they were very supportive of whatever me and my brother wanted to do, and I kind of followed in my brother's footsteps. And he was a great athlete, and I wanted to be just like him, of course. So I took my athletic endeavors, baseball, football, wrestling, and I did those three sports, all through high school. Played football in college, and then, after football was over, I was hoping to be in the NFL, of course. I think we all were at some point, and we got close, but not quite there. And then we started fighting. I kind of always wanted to fight. I started doing martial arts in middle school, really. My dad had a buddy named Bill Francis, so I started doing a 9 eskrima. Yeah, weapons, bro, all weapons, and the weapons were sick, and that's why my next show is actually going to have some stick fights on it, because I want to display the art of eskrima for the people, But started with weapons. It wasn't quite MMA, but it kind of got my feet wet, with martial arts. And then I started wrestling in middle school as well. Mr. Walker got me into wrestling in middle school. And then from there, after football didn't happen, I was like, hey, I want to keep it going. I want to compete. Started competing in jiu-jitsu, started fighting, and just doing it ever since.
When people pursue fighting, sometimes they just want to learn combat. They want to learn how to defend themselves, and they enter a gym and they start to get better. They start to get better when it comes to the sparring, their boxing, their wrestling, jiu-jitsu, etc. That's how I felt, because when I first got into the gym, it was just to defend myself. It was never to like, oh, I'm going to be a professional athlete. Oh, I'm going to be a pro fighter, so on and so forth. I never had that vision until I started to feel myself get better. So when you first entered combat, was it like that for you, where, I'm going to go full all in on this? Or was it just like, I'm just going to learn how to defend myself?
Well, actually, I told my dad that I wanted to do MMA. But my dad doesn't know, he doesn't know MMA from martial arts from something else, right? So he hooked me up with Bill Francis, and Bill Francis was doing like American street fighting and a 9 Eskrima. Yeah. And it wasn't quite, what I had imagined, but I really enjoyed it, and I had a great time doing it. I did it for a lot of years. My brother did it as well, and from there, I did get better at striking, of course. Like they have a cadena de mano, which is like the chain of hands, which is their open hand technique, which is actually very similar to Muay Thai. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing that, and it wasn't really MMA, but I was kind of fighting. I was competing in stick fights, competing in knife fights, gaining confidence in myself and my martial arts. I obviously would wrestle a lot, like in street fights. I would wrestle. Because obviously I wasn't using no weapons, but I used my wrestling there, and from there I just kind of started doing a little bit of jiu-jitsu. After the jiu-jitsu started going well, I was like, let's take a fight. In the fight game, you need confidence, right? And some people are like arrogant, but that can sometimes help them, because you need to have a lot of confidence sometimes. And I was super confident in myself. I would watch these guys on TV, and I would be like, oh, I can do that. Like I could beat those guys up. I was wrong. I was wrong. When I finally got to the point where I was sparring against these guys that were good, when I first got to AKA, when I was like 19, and I realized like how bad I was. Yeah. And then my camo debut, I got choked out by a dude named Sasha Montgomery. He was a good amateur. I don't think he ever went pro. He's a black belt now, but he was a purple belt at the time. I was a white belt. I thought jiu-jitsu really didn't really work that well. Yeah. I would just, if someone got me, I would just beast out of it. Like, they can't do that to me. And then I slowly learned that, like, oh, they can do that to me, and they will, And so I was confident to the point where I was a little bit arrogant, and but no, I wanted to be a fighter. I wanted to be those guys. I thought I was as good as those guys, and I thought it'd be easy to beat up those guys. So I learned through the martial arts that, the time you put in is actually what you get out, And so I found out that I wasn't as good as I thought I was, and I actually needed to start, like putting in some major work. And then I kind of fell in love with the fact that I was striving to be what I always imagined I was, but I wasn't really.
There is that confidence that we gain when we do something difficult, and the confidence raises. But then we go to a gym and we're sparring somebody or wrestling somebody, and they put us in our place. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's always, like, say, humble pie out there, but sometimes the ego kind of gets big, even when you win a fight. Because, bro, the feeling of winning a fight is a different kind of high. It does this to your confidence. You're like, oh my God, I am the king of the world. But you also need to be grounded after those moments. I feel like that what I'm seeing now is people will go to a gym, want to be a fighter, but they'll go into a gym as they are the best guy in the room. And that is not a place to be. You need to find a room or a gym or coaches or people where they are constantly on you, levels up ahead of you. Do you agree with that?
I do agree, but it's also very strange, right? Because you need to be that. You need that in the practice room. You 100% need that. But when you're going into the fight, you need to almost forget all of those rounds you lost, and you need to forget like how good that one wrestler was that just completely manhandled you, and you have to believe that you're going to beat your opponent. And yeah, because it's weird. So you do need those hours of getting just beat up by everybody. But then once you go into the fight, you almost need to forget those hours. Remember the work you put in, remember what you're good at and what you can do. And you need to go in there and just, be the best version of yourself you can be. Yeah. So, it's strange because in fight camp, oftentimes, like, I'll be getting fucking manhandled, right? And then I'll do well in the fight. So, I mean, I know that my training partners are savages. So, but some of my opponents are savages as well, right? So it's like you need to get beat up, you need to be humbled in the training room, but then you almost need to have that weird confidence for the fight. And it takes like that fight week to get into the mindset of you are the baddest man alive. If you brought that to the training room, you and your buddies would hurt each other, So it's like you need to know it, but you need to be in a position where you're willing to learn. And then when you get into the fight, you need to forget how battered you got all fight camp, and you need to go out there and just put it on the guy.
Agreed. How are you in the locker room? Because, man, that's where you get to see different psychologies in that room. You know what I mean? You get to see somebody sad, you get to see somebody crying, throwing up, confident, etc. How are you like in the locker room?
So I think I'm pretty positive in the locker room, but then I had my last fight. Dimitri Georgialis was back there with me, and he's one of my fighters. So I mean, he's fought on my card a couple. Not one of my fighters, but he's fought on my card in the past, and a buddy of mine, and I train with him, right? And so Dimitri was like so fucking happy to be back there, like so excited, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna put this cross on this dude's chin." And we were in the back, and he was showing me what he was gonna do to him, and I was like kind of nervous. I was fighting Charles. I was like kind of nervous, but I was not trying to show that I was nervous because I'm supposed to be the guy that's been here a million times and confident and ready. Dimitri was in such a fucking good mood, bro. I couldn't believe it, dude. And then he goes out there and does exactly what he said he was going to do. And then came back like in an even better mood, just like, and I was like, damn. So although I do feel like I'm pretty calm in the back, and people sometimes are impressed with like my ability to kind of remain calm and focused in the back and not wig out and be weird. Dimitri Georgialis is on a whole nother level, bro. Yeah, he's on a whole nother level. It's crazy.
My conditioning coach, he would tell me to get pissed. I get mad because I was known as the guy to be smiley. I was always the guy to like have fun, enjoy myself, be in the moment, be present. So he wanted me to be in the locker room like pissed, like angry at my opponent, etc. I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm not at flow like that. But it's a switch. When you're approaching the fight, like I'm like smiling, seeing all the lights, etc., seeing all the people. But when it's him right in front of me, I'm like, oh, dude, it's over. It's a weird feeling, my man, when you're in that cage. And it's literally do or die. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that feeling. It's the only sport where you could legally kill somebody. Do you ever think about that? How this guy has been training months and months to put you away. How do you view and approach your opponent when it comes to fight week, when it comes to during the fight? What's your mindset in there?
Yes, no, I get upset. I don't like my opponent, bro. I don't like him. And even if I like him, I'll create reasons to not like him. Like, for example, Charles. I love Charles. And but then like he started to annoy me, even though he wasn't really doing anything that annoying. But it was annoying me. He was posting pictures like with my teammates, like with Sean Clemack. He posted a picture. He posted a picture of Wig. He posted like these pictures as if like these guys maybe had like chose a side and the side was his, But that's not even what was going on. He was just posting pictures, but they were like mutual people that we both know, and started to really bug me. But Charles, I mean, anything would have bugged me because I was getting ready to fight him, and so I think I was kind of trying to build up like not liking him because I do better when I don't like my opponent. I do, because what I found, and there's been fights where I enjoyed the moment, and then I kind of enjoyed the moment too much. I forgot that I'm creating the moment for my fans. Like I don't get to enjoy this moment because I'm still creating what the moment is going to be for all of my fans, right? And so if I lose, it sucks. The fights, everything sucks. The camp sucks. Everything sucked, bro. So I can't lose, bro. And I kind of forgot. I had won so many fights in a row before I lost that LFA fight that I literally kind of forgot. I hadn't lost since 2019 when I fought Ivan for Bellator, and then I went on and I won for like 4 or 5. I guess it was 3 years straight, and then I finally lost, and I forgot how fucking shitty it was, and I really feel like I let my people down, my fans down, and I really enjoyed that moment though. It was LFA Santa Cruz, my hometown, main event. Whole stadium was roaring, and fuck, it felt good, bro. It felt too good. But it didn't feel good? The fucking punches. The punches hurt. So I enjoyed that moment a little bit too much. I didn't create the moment I needed to create for my people. And so since then, I've really learned that I don't get to enjoy anything until I get my hand raised. And then I can start having a good time. Yeah. But until my hand's raised, like it's all business and there's no fun yet.
Dealing with those like losses, they put you in a very depressive state. I remember when I lost 2 in a row. It was like I didn't recognize myself. You know what I mean? When you're going through those fights, you're gaining all this confidence, you're gaining so much momentum, and when you lose, you question everything. I was questioning nearly my whole being, which is crazy to think about because I remember when I last lost, when the guy was getting his hand raised, I said to myself, as he was getting his hand raised, I'd rather die than lose. I never want to feel this feeling again. It is very, very depressing. It is a weird feeling that I cannot describe, but it makes you question everything. And it also puts you in a place to rebuild yourself, because you have to not only make proper adjustments, but you have to really look at yourself critically on like, what changes do I need to make in order for me to be successful? So when you dealt with losses in the past, how did you pick yourself back up? Because that is the hardest thing to do, not as just an athlete, but a professional fighter.
You know, it is one of the hardest things to do. It's not just like, oh, like that day, like the next day. It's all the way until you win again. It's all the way until you prove to yourself that you know you didn't perform up to your capabilities, you know, and you're better than that. So it's not just a week or two. It's like you're in the state of you don't believe you're the man you thought you were, and so it's challenging, but it makes me grind hard. And that's what I do, bro. I try to handle adversity, you know, the only way I know how, and that's just to keep working, keep trying to get better, and try to remind myself that I am the person who I think I am. But I'm telling you, just like I told you when I was a kid, I had that dumb confidence, and so even though I've been humbled many times, I still think that I'm capable of achieving these things that I set out to achieve when I started, you know, and so it sucks. It's obviously part of the game. Half the people lose every show. 50% of the people lose. And from the promoter side too, it's hard because a lot of, you know, I bring these kids in and then they have a bad experience on my show. And it's a bad experience, you know, when you lose, right? And so I want everyone to win. I never want anyone to get knocked out at the amateur level. But it happens, and it's part of the game, and you got to just keep pushing and try to do better the next time.
You're not only a professional athlete, but you're also providing an avenue and a space for these young upcoming guys to perform and to show off their skills so they can take it into the professional level. How does that feel for you, my man, personally, as a fulfillment perspective, that you created a space for these young people? It's an idea that you put together, and it's very, very uncommon for somebody who's in the fight game and at the same time to be juggling that venture as well. How do you balance the two, man? Because it's very, very impressive and very, very difficult.
You know, honestly, I have a really good team that helps with the fights. My matchmaker, Antonio, he's one of the best matchmakers in California. I've known Antonio for a long time. When I was fighting amateur, I used to not have a lot of support as an amateur because I wanted to fight whenever I wanted to fight, but your coaches, that's not how that works. Like, they want you to fight when they want you to fight. And when they're available, and if their daughter has a quinceañera or whatever it may be, like they don't want you to fight that date. But that's not the way I worked. Like, I wanted to fight the dates that I wanted to fight, so I often had to show up to fights alone. And so I went to 209 Beatdown by myself. Antonio was there, and Antonio, this is when we were both amateur fighters. He was still fighting, right? And he was like, Antonio Jimenez. He was like, "Hey, bro, where's your team?" I was like, "Oh, I don't have, you know, that I'm here by myself. I didn't bring a team." And I would ask some random people to corner me or whatever, and they would. And then I would compete. But in Stockton, I was like, I can't remember. Okay, I was fighting a local guy from Stockton, Stovall. And Antonio was like, "Hey, bro, like, do you need help warming up?" Or like, and so I met Antonio, you know, in the locker room in 209 Beatdown. And then we've been buddies ever since. And then he's been helping me ever since. And he's actually done really well for himself as far as the matchmaking. He's like the head matchmaker for Lights Out. He matches for SF Combat. He matches for all these shows now. But he was helping me out from the start, like for little money. And now I'm finally to a point where I can pay him what I feel like he's worth, you know. But when we first started, I wasn't paying him what he's worth. But he was putting together great cards, right? Yeah. So I was helping a little bit. I did the first 2 Bay Area combat shows myself. It was hard. When I finally brought Antonio in for my show, Central Coast Fighting Championships, it got way easier because he handled like what is like part of the hardest part is getting the talent to agree to fight and then show up and fight. And I just had to handle like the logistics part of it, you know, venue, insurance, all the stuff, all the boring stuff, right? But Antonio's been a huge part of it, and then all my friends and all my buddies come together. They help me build the cage. It's a huge community out there in Santa Cruz, so they help me build the cage. They help me run the show, and it's all my buddies, dude. So it's been great. It's been a fun endeavor, but obviously, like it's hit and miss because I want all the athletes to have a great time and enjoy what I've done for them, right? But that's not the way it works. it's the ones that win usually appreciate what I've done, and the ones that lose think that I like plotted against them. But I can't blame them, because it's the exact same way that I used to think. I used to, we're paranoid as fighters. We think it's like the promoter wants the other guy to win. Everything's against us. Like we're all super paranoid. And then when it plays out the way we kind of hoped it wouldn't, it just like kind of reaffirms what we had thought. Like, oh yeah, no, that promoter wanted me to lose. And don't get me wrong, I think there are some shows where you're fighting their guys. Like I don't have any of my guys.
Yeah.
So I don't have a team. I mean, I have a team, but I don't have a gym in Santa Cruz. I do have a team, and but also too, I hate like these fight shows that bring in their guys and they fight tomato cans and they pad their guys' records. I really am against that.
Yeah, me too.
And so if my guys fight on my show, they always have to fight a fucking killer. And so a lot of times my guys have lost on my show, but then they also get upset at me too. They're like, bro, why couldn't you get me a way easier fight? It's like, bro, I just can't do it. That's just not my style. Like if you're going to fight, you're going to, and I like that about Gil for Fight Night San Jose, because he's fighting a lot of his guys on the show, but his guys are fighting hard opponents. He's not giving his guys any tomato cans. Yeah. And obviously that's not the same for a lot of these other shows. I don't want to name them, but you probably know what shows I'm talking about. These shows where they build their guys up, they're fighting tomato cans, they pad their record. But no, Joe Thoreau, like he came on my show, he whooped everyone's ass, and so we have a great relationship now. But I'm curious if like it would have been different potentially if he wasn't my champion, because I gave Joe some hard fights, but Joe just came out there and performed, right? And but some of the guys that he beat, like James DeCelli out of Fresno, he's still cool. He was a little older, so he was a little bit more mature in the game, so he kind of understood. But there have been some other guys that lost that they don't like me now, and I don't blame them, but it's not what I was necessarily going for. So it's fun creating the opportunity for the kids, but it's also kind of like, it's bittersweet at times.
It is very hard, because I remember when my brother fought on your card, I know what the feeling is like when you lose. And when he lost, I was like, damn, what he's feeling. I know exactly what he's feeling. And a lot of people in this room don't know that.
My bad. I felt bad because for your brother, bro, that was a weird situation too, because his opponent didn't show up to the weigh-in. Do you remember that?
I do.
His opponent didn't show up to the weigh-ins. His opponent wasn't coming. So in his mind, his fight's off. So that's fucked up, but that's the way it works sometimes. Yeah. And then his opponent shows up
later in the card.
Yeah, I like his opponent. Like he's fought for me a couple times too. He's cool. I like their team, but at the same time, it was very strange. He shows up the fucking card has started, bro. He shows up hasn't weighed in, but somehow your brother still your brother still wanted to fight. A lot of fans there. He still wanted to fight, but he's already now your brother's gone through. Okay, I'm fighting. Okay, I'm not. Okay, the fight's off. Okay, the fight might be back on. Okay, he's not here yet. Okay, it's off. Oh fuck, here he is. Oh, he's waiting. Okay, fight's on. And
it's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
man.
That's hard. And so I never want to have that. I never want to put people through that type of experience, but unfortunately at the amateur level, somehow they're not getting paid to show up. So, the fact that so it's hard to wrangle these guys in at times, because they're going through the same nerves pro fighters are going through. Yeah. And they're questioning why they're doing this. They might get a concussion for free, and so it's hard. I mean, I fought amateur and I showed up every time I said I was going to, but I was also a little bit older of an amateur, so I was a little bit more mature. I really knew what I was getting myself into. Some of these kids don't, and then they realize the day of the fight, oh shit, I might fucking get knocked out today in front of all my friends and family. That's not going to be fun. And so, yeah, your brother, that was a tough one for your brother. It was an experience that once you've gone through it, you grow from it. But at the same time, that's not necessarily how I wanted to go down for the guys. So I kind of felt bad for that one.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing as a promoter? Because I feel like there's separate things when it comes to being a fighter and being a promoter. So what is the hardest thing for you as a promoter?
The hardest thing as a promoter is making everyone happy. It's really just making everybody happy. Right, I love ant dogs, and I fight a lot of their guys. We have an ant dogs guy on my show this time, and then but then I wanted to go to Gilroy and I wanted to team up with ant dogs, and sure enough I did. But unbeknownst to me, some other gyms that I was working with don't like ant dogs, and so they pulled their support from my show for that event, and then it gets hairy. It gets really hairy, and then in Santa Cruz, I do the jiu-jitsu matches, and then Garth Taylor doesn't get along with Kaijin. They had been one, and then they split, but I used both of their guys, and then And then somehow I got both of them mad at me, you know, like, yeah. And I like both of them. I'm cool with both of them, but somehow I did something. I said, and it's hard. I mean, you're promoting combat, right? And so I had said something that the kid had not said, but the kid was a young kid. But I really was just trying to convince this gym to take the match. I was like, hey, bro, this kid called you a pussy.
Yeah.
He hadn't done that. And I know you're not supposed to do that. But it was jujitsu, and it was like I'm in Santa Cruz, two teams that I knew. Yeah. And then instead of like being like, so this kid hit up the kid and was like, hey, bro, you called me a pussy? And then the kid was like, nah, bro, I didn't call you a pussy. And then they both came back at me and were like, hey, dog, like, you can't be fucking. Everyone got mad, bro. And so, you know, you're trying to promote the fight, trying to build the fights up. You're trying to get kids to agree to compete. And I wouldn't do that in MMA. Be like, hey, this kid called you a pussy and shit. But in jiu-jitsu, you know, I was just trying to make a jiu-jitsu match. 2 local gyms, got them both mad at me, and I actually recently sent out a couple apologies for that one, just because I hadn't, and I was thinking, and I was like, you know what, probably should send out a couple apologies, you know, for that one, and so I recently sent out a couple apologies for that particular incident. And it's just hard. It's just hard, bro. It's hard to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
And I want to. I like being cool with everyone. I mean, obviously, when I'm fighting this particular camp, I don't like being cool with them. But really, it's just a competitive thing. It's not like I really don't like them. Yeah. Like, for example, my opponent, Joaquin, is fighting out of NorCal Fighting Alliance. I don't like Adam Walmsley. Just because we fought twice, but we're 1-1. He never gave me the trilogy. And then we were almost matched. And then his team pulled him for whatever reason. I said something on a podcast. I said I was going to cut him and stick my fingers in it and rip the cut open, which I was kidding. You know, I was promoting the fight, right? But then they pulled him from my fight. My Muay Thai coach was in town from Thailand. He was at NorCal Fighting Alliance. I wanted to train with him, and then they said I couldn't train with him at that gym. They have a beautiful facility. Dave Terrell, great coach. You know, he has his own show. I don't want to say nothing too much, but I do think that he gives his fighters some tomato cans on that show, pads their records a little bit, but I'm not too mad at him about it. But beautiful facility. If you're up in that area, go train at NorCal Fighting Alliance. But just know that if I get matched against you, like, you're my enemy at that point. So although I don't like that gym, I can say positive things about their gym and some nice things about him. It's a great facility. It's huge. It's very nice. But I want to fuck up Joaquin. I want to fuck up Adam. But also I've had Dominic Ducharmes. I've been on my show out of their gym. So, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to keep everyone happy. It's a clusterfuck really in the area, dude. Yeah. You know, I'm fighting some of their guys are on my show. I'm fighting their guys. I'm mad at them. I'm not mad. Right when we're done fighting, I want their guys to fight on my show again. So it's hard to balance everything, but I do my best.
Yeah. And for you, my man, it's so funny because there's like difficulty within being a promoter and being as a fighter. What's harder?
Promoting's way harder.
Yeah.
Fighting's easy, bro. Fighting, I can just be who I am. I could be riding for my team. And that's also what I really like about when I was just fighting is I was just riding for my team and fuck these other teams. Yeah. Fuck all of them. You know, I mean, I'll be cool with them. Hey, what's up, Dan? We know what's up. You know, I'm cool with them, right? But if we get matched against them, then we're trying to fuck them up, you know? And even though I'll tell me, hey, what's up, you know, to the coaches, how's it going? I'll tell my fighters fighting their guy, hey, fuck their team, bro. Fuck that kid, dog. Like, no, we're going to fuck that kid up, bro. No, nice shit, homie. Fuck them. Yeah. Oh, hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? You know, I'll be all nice, but I'll really spit in my guys' ear, like, nah, like, fuck these guys, you know? And but when you're promoting, you almost have to play. You can't be like that. Yeah. And Zhang does a pretty good job. You know, even though I fought some of his guys on his show, and he's come in and picked them up after they beat me and fucking brought them around, and like he doesn't do that as much anymore. But old Zhang used to do that a lot, and so it's hard to, you know, please everybody. But, you know, obviously you want to ride for your team, your squad, the hardest, and they want you to ride for them. Yeah, they look up to you like to do that. But promoting is hard, bro. Yeah. And then when I took that little break, it felt pretty good because I was almost back to just like riding for my squad, just my team. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm promoting again, and I appreciate all the teams that fight on my card, and I appreciate all the athletes they give me, and I want all of them to succeed. Yeah. But really, I want my team to succeed and my guys to succeed. So it's a little conundrum.
John Jones, he is very strict when it comes to studying his opponents. There's certain fighters out there, they're just like, dude, I don't care. I don't care about their Instagram. I don't care about their social media. I don't care about watching them, watching their fights, etc. I don't care about studying. It's interesting when you see a different dynamic within fighters. Like some people just like to focus on themselves, which is great. Other fighters, like I would say a John Jones, like to focus on himself, but also know his opponent more than he knows himself, which is crazy. How do you approach your opponents when prepping for them and preparing for them? Do you study or do you just kind of like, no, I'm going to focus on me?
Well, shout out to Cabrillo Football, Coach Hansen and Cabrillo Football, Coach Schmo. They really taught me how to watch film, how to study my opponent. And I hadn't done that in high school, but when I got to college, that's when they really broke down like, hey, like we're gonna do a lot of film study. And not only are we gonna do a lot of film study, but we're gonna know that when they're in this formation, they run these two plays. And then when they're in this formation, they run these two plays. And then in this formation, if this guy moves, they're going to run this play. And I learned, not only was it put me in a position to make big plays, and they put me in the position to make big plays because they would call the correct defense. They would send me on a blitz when they knew it showed me how much you can learn from studying people. They change a little bit, but they don't change that much. Every once in a while, they would throw a curveball at us. Oh, they added this, they added that. Oh, we weren't prepared for that. But a lot of times they were doing their bread and butter, the same stuff they always do. And so I learned so much from that experience and how studying film can really put you in a position to make big plays. And so the people that don't watch film and they never got taught how to watch film is really what it is. They didn't get sat down by a group of grown men and were like, hey, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. And then they didn't get to see it unfold as well in the games where it has unfolded for me many times in the past. And so I watch a lot of film. I try to see what my opponents are going to do. I try to see what combos they like to throw. I try to see when they switch stances, what they throw, how they set up their shots. I try to see all of it. So when I'm in the fight and it's coming at me, I'm like, oh, you know what? This is exactly what I watched. And I'm going to do this, do that. And so I really see the benefit in studying film. I know some people don't. I feel like they didn't really ever get taught. And I think if they were taught, then they would see the benefit of it. I think my striking is my strong point at this time. My grappling, it's not even my grappling. My jiu-jitsu is like, from my back, is pretty good. Even my top game jiu-jitsu is pretty good. It's my wrestling that I've learned is not as good as I thought it was. And I've learned that by wrestling crazy wrestlers like Theo Haig over there at AKA, Ivan Batnich, these guys that are wrestlers. I've learned like, dang, my wrestling isn't as good as I thought it was, and don't get me wrong, I can still sometimes, catch some stuff off my back, like some jiu-jitsu. But I found out that weakness in my wrestling a couple of years ago now, over at AKA. So I've been working on it. I've been wrestling a lot. I swear to God, I used to like not wrestle against the cage, like really at all. And then when I fought Joe Cropshot, he made the same mistake that I used to make. And he would just like let me off the cage. And then I wouldn't even like have an underhook or like a whiz or nothing. And then he could go to, like, it was very strange. Like when you watch that fight, like we both didn't wrestle well against the cage. And if he had wrestled well against the cage, he probably would have beat me or at least got out of that first round. And then who knows where the fight would have gone. Right. Yeah. And so wrestling is super important. And I've like given people my back against the cage like multiple times, not wrestling. Yeah. Just kind of hoping that they let go and like we start striking or waiting for an opportunity to like throw some dirty strikes, forgetting that like you need to wrestle first. So my wrestling is definitely my weaker point. But it's constantly getting better. I feel like I wrestle way better against the cage than I used to. Yeah. Which is weird, right? Because that's something you probably should do like before you even go pro. Like you should be wrestling well against the cage. I wasn't, and I didn't even like really realize that aspect of the game. But now I'm better. I'm still not trying to wrestle too offensively. I'm kind of trying to keep it standing. I will though if I'm getting fucked up, bro. Yeah, like I hate to say it, dude. Obviously, I couldn't do it against Charles because we were doing the Muay Thai. But if I do start getting fucked up, I do want to kind of change the pace of the fight. You know? So. Yeah.
And you've been in the game for a really long time. Have you seen it change when it comes to, say, the business side of it, where the social media side of it, the attention side of it? It's so different, man. Like back in the day, if you performed very, very well, like say a GSP, like his skill set is what made him his wealth, right? Now people are like utilizing their social media, utilizing, say, the content, utilizing their personality in order to make this significant change within their life. Have you noticed the change within the fight game?
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's great, and I love it. You know, Conor McGregor obviously brought more eyes to the sport, more money to the sport. Jake Paul and the Paul brothers have kind of really shown how you can like boost yourself up through social media and make more money fighting because of it. But even like, so when I made my pro debut, which wasn't that long ago, like 2018, I think I got like $500 flat. Yeah. And then I paid my commission fees. I think I got like $300 or whatever. And then my next fight, I think was like 5-2, small little money. And then they were all small until like the Bellator fight was like a little bit bigger, but still not that big. And then I came back to a Dragon House fight after that, and I think it was like 8, and it was small money, right? But Joe and Dimitri, they're already making way more money than I made, and it's been 3 or 4 years, right? And so they're like, for their debut, they made this much, and then they got this much for their second fight. I'm like, damn, you guys, like, how you guys already making the same money that I was making on my 10th pro fight, on your second pro fight? But I think there's just more money in the sport. There's more eyes on the sport, and then they both do a very good job of marketing themselves, Joe Throw and Dimitri and shit. So, and they promote the fights well. That's why I loved having on my show too, because they promoted the fights so well. And some fighters don't. You know, Reno, my guy, he promotes the fights really well. And I think it's going to pay off for them. You know, learning how to kind of play the game. These fighters that don't play the game, they don't get as much exposure. They don't get as much money for the fight, really. So.
Yeah. And is that a big priority for you? Because not only are you entertaining in the fights, but you're also entertaining on the mic. So is that something that you utilize where you're like, oh, no, I need to be consistent at this. I need to keep this up when it comes to the content as well?
Yeah, I just don't want to have any like super dry content. You know, I know that I'm not in a position where I'm going to make it to, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still striving to go to the UFC. Yeah. I'm 36. I work full time, you know, and part time, you know, I don't have like the financial support to train all day like some people do have. And honestly, I did have it when I was younger, but I kind of fucked it off, and I wasn't as dedicated to the sport as I should have been when I was younger. I wanted to like chase hoes and fucking do drugs and party and have a good time, right, and drink and shit. So I kind of wasted my when I had the most support, financial support. And now I'm doing it myself, which is still cool. Like there's a different kind of hunger when you're trying to put it all together yourself. But no, it's important to be a personality. I try to do it because I want people to be entertained. Like I don't want it to be dry. Yeah. Obviously, there's financial reasons for it. And the amateur show is, as much as it is, you know, supporting and growing the sport and showing the athletes, I am trying to eventually make money doing it. You know, it hasn't been crazy successful as far as lucrative. It's been successful. The content I've created has been super sick. People have been super excited. The fans love it. But it hasn't been as lucrative as it potentially could be. Every show I'm learning, though, I'm like, okay, I need to do this different. I could do this. I need to do this, and maybe not that. That was a little too expensive for what I'm doing, and it didn't necessarily get the return. So I'm learning, and you know, it's been good, but yeah, bro, you kind of have to promote, dude. You have to promote yourself.
And I wanted to go back to that. You said when there was a time and a phase where it was the partying, the girls, etc. How did that switch come where you're like, I need to escape this route and actually get dialed and focused?
You know, it was actually it was weird. So like my best friend, Nate Jackson, my best buddy, we were living together. He was super focused. He was a CrossFit instructor. He was super big supporter of mine. And also too, he'll be like, hey bro, that's not what happened. You know, he doesn't remember it like I remember it, you know, but I remember how I remember it. And he was downstairs and I was upstairs at the house that we rented. And then I would come home at like 2 a.m. and then we would make all this fucking noise and he would come up all pissed. Like, hey, what the fuck? Like I got to wake up in 3 hours. I teach at 6 a.m. or whatever. And you guys shut the fuck up, you know? And, oh, my bad, Nate, my bad. Da, da, da. And then we go we not right above his bedroom making a bunch of noise. We go over here, make a bunch of fucking noise and shit. Like, and he knew my potential. His older brother was a pro fighter, and he knew the potential I had, and he knew that I wasn't living up to my potential, right? And so he would constantly give me talks, and then I would constantly kind of like, he was almost like a brother to me, you know. And so I didn't necessarily take what he said serious. And then we lived together for a long time. And then one day he was like, "Hey, bro, I'm moving. I'm moving to San Diego. You know, I have a brother in San Diego, and I want to be closer to my brother. You know, he needs me right now, and I want to be down there closer to him, and I want to kind of start a new life." And this, we were in Santa Cruz at the time. He's like, "I want to kind of start over in San Diego," and of course, I was very supportive of that, and he moved to San Diego. But then after he moved, I really felt like I drove him away, and I kind of had. I really like in like reflecting, I had like driven him away, like with my partying. He would ask me to like not like to clean shit up. I wouldn't clean it, you know, like he was a buddy, a roommate, but I had almost gotten too close to the point where I didn't respect him like I should. And then it was weird, bro, because I felt like I lost him. And he was like my best guy, bro. And so when he left, I stopped drinking, and then I just started focusing on fighting. And so I appreciate him for doing that, you know, and it was his own life, and he's down there thriving down there. He's doing great down there. He's still down there. He's thriving. He's killing it down there. But I felt like I like fucking pushed him out. He was like one of my biggest supporters. I was letting him down. And so I started taking it serious. And then from that point on, like it's been great from that point on, and I haven't, you know, partied or drank or done any drugs since.
It's so funny because you've been through that experience, and some people, it's hard for them to get away from the distractions. It really, really is. Like I always took it as an edge to like stay away from all that stuff. I always saw it as, oh, I know my opponent is doing this after a win. I know my opponent is doing this right now. I like having that edge where it's like I'm just constantly sacrificing. I'm constantly sharpening the blades, harnessing the tools. Like that was a big fulfillment thing for me. But even for you, my man, how does somebody get away from those distractions? Because it is very, very hard, especially when somebody wants to be successful. I knew a young guy who was very talented, but couldn't block out the noise from the distractions. And I told him, I was like, man, if you really, really want to be great, you need to get away from this shit. It's not going to do you any justice long term. It's like you can't do both, especially as a pro athlete. You cannot do both. You need to pick one. And yeah, one is really hard. One is really lonely. One is a lot of suffering. And this is all temporary bullshit. Which one do you want? The fulfillment aspect of it or the bullshit side of it? Which one do you want? So it's interesting, man, when people talk about it. Oh, like I want to do this, I want to do that. But their actions speak otherwise. So I'm like, man, it's very disappointing seeing talented people go that side, go through the useless temptations, all the distractions, all the bullshit. It's like, man, you literally have a chance and ability to change your whole trajectory, but you decide otherwise. So for you, if you had a gym full of young cats and you're guiding these guys, they look up to you as a mentor. How would you even guide these young guys? Because you've been there and you've done it. You've been in the game for a long time. You've seen it all. You've done it all. What are the things that you would want to pass on to these young guys?
I mean, obviously, I would tell them to, fuck, it's hard, bro, but I would tell them to not drink and not party. I would kind of just tell them my story, how I was 50-50 fighter, doing okay in jiu-jitsu, not winning big tournaments, getting second, like, and then once I stopped fucking around, bro, the whole trajectory completely changed. I wish I had done it so much sooner. And I would kind of just explain to my story and tell them that I understand. And I'm happy that I've been there too, so I can kind of I've walked in their shoes, and I know kind of the reasons they're doing it, because, you know, the girl that they're into, she's doing it and she's out, and then she's hanging out with these guys that are out all late doing this, and you want to be with her, and da 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 da, and a lot of it is motivated by chasing women and shit too, and then at that age, the women are where they want to go over the salsa dancing until 2 a.m. and then they want to go here, and it's like, you know, all these things, right? And they're just major distractions, and honestly, they're not necessarily the females that you want to be with too. They're not going to be the ones that are supporting your fight career, you know, especially when things get hard. Like they're not the right ones. But it's hard. A lot of these guys, they need to learn the hard way. You know, no matter how many times you tell them, they want to learn the hard way, and so you kind of have to let them live their life. Hopefully, rein them back in. You know, Coach Rudy does a great job because he deals with so many athletes that go with they all live their life, but he does a good job of like kind of bringing them back in. And some of them are like, dang, he's always like talking about fighting because he's seen so many fighters come and go. He knows that if you have to stay on them, if you don't stay on them, like they will stray. Yeah. It's not always It's rewarding when it's rewarding, the fight game, but it's not always rewarding. Sometimes it's very hard and then even cruel at times, right? And so you have to constantly just be supporting them and just trying to reel them back in when they're trying to drift away, reel them back in. No, but I don't think drinking and abusing substances helps at all, with the fight game. I really don't. And then when I had stopped, it was for a fight camp. I was fighting Jeremy Ashley. It was actually a 5-round boxing match at an Indian reservation. It was one of my only boxing fights. I've had 2 boxing fights. And I was like, okay, like if I win, I'm going to party. And I'd even brought stuff up to the Indian casino to party with, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, if I win, I'm going to party. And then I won, but barely. It was like a split decision, barely won, didn't perform the way I wanted to, took my party supplies, threw them away, was like, all right, this isn't the one. Like, you didn't earn your party on this one. And then for my next fight, I was like, you know what, if I do good on this one, I'm gonna stay good, but if I do good on this one, I'm a party. You know what I'm saying? Had my party supplies. I think I won that one, bro. And then I fucking was like, nah, like I ain't doing it. It wasn't easy, bro. It was like I wanted to party, you know what I'm saying? And then I was like, fuck this, threw them away. And then I was like, you know what, bro? Like you're done partying, dog. Yeah. You're done, bro. And so I've been done, bro. It's been a long time now that I've been done. It's been like fucking 7 or 8 years now. No drinks, no partying, and super stoked I made that move, right? Because here I am today. Like I wouldn't be here. I'd be doing something else. I wouldn't be where I am today. So super stoked I made that decision.
What are some of the biggest benefits that you've seen personally from changing that trajectory within yourself?
Well, I mean, my relationships have all been way better too. And then when you're going into a fight camp, stress compiles, right? So if you're stressed out with your relationship, your parents, work is stressing you out, you're not sleeping well, it's all of it starts to compile. Then when you add the fight stress on top of the already stress you have in your life, that's when you start to get injured, things start to break. The stress compiles. So if you can eliminate stress by sleeping, is a big one. Communicating better with the people in your life, your family, your partners, doing better at work, having a healthier relationship at work with your coworkers, with your boss. It all just makes it so when you add that extra stress for the fight camp, that stress doesn't break you. So it was huge. You don't think about it like that, but the fight is stressful as fuck, bro. And it's way extra stress. You already have all your life stress, and then you're adding way more stress on top just to fulfill like your ego or be who you think you are, or prove to people you are the man you think you are, or you say you are. So if you can eliminate all these other stressors, all this other physical stress, mental stress, it makes the stress of the fight less overwhelming.
And as the fight is approaching, we have like what, 3 weeks,
4 weeks, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. So it's approaching, my man. How are you feeling at this moment?
I feel great. Feel great. Prepared, confident, happy, bro. Happy to headline the show again, and another local main event. And I don't know how many pro main events it's been now. It's been more than I ever imagined. And it feels good, right? But I can't feel too good because I still have to create that moment for my people. So I feel great. I'm excited. But the job is not even close to being done yet, right? Yeah. So I have to go in there, and I have to create this moment for all my friends and family and for myself, so I can reflect back on it, and it can be a positive experience to reflect upon. So I'm a little bit uneasy. It's an uneasy feeling when that is still on your shoulders, but I'm excited to do it. And I think you're going to see like the most violent version of myself that you've seen in a long time.
One of my favorite moments are when it comes to the fight week is the weigh-in, the face-to-face, the eye-to-eye. There's nothing like that, man. There's nothing like where it's like you're forehead to forehead, you're staring at his soul, you're staring right through the guy. It is a crazy, crazy feeling, my man, because eyes do not lie. And I remember this one time, my first Bellator fight, he was dialed. This guy was ready. I can tell he had a great camp. The way we were just staring at each other, I was like, it's going to be a good night Saturday night. It's going to be fun. Like he's showing up, I'm showing up. It's going to be fun. Fight night, the eyes weren't there. on his end. And I remember we were across from each other. They were announcing each other's names, etc. And I saw his ice changed from yesterday to the weigh-in to the actual fight. And I looked at my coach. I was like, look at him. He's not there right now. He's shook.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is very, very interesting how a poker face can tell the whole truth. And the eyes, my man, they'll say the whole story. But how are you feeling during that moment of the weigh-in where you're just staring at your opponent dead in the eye?
It's weird because everyone takes a different approach to it, right? So like Evan Guerrero, when I fought Evan, I had lost my pro debut, so I didn't feel like a real pro fighter yet. I was 0-1. I was fighting an undefeated boxer, undefeated amateur, Evan Guerrero, and then he was like all happy, jolly, like making it like a joke at the weigh-in and shit, making cute little faces, and it really just fucking pissed me off, bro. But it motivated me. You know, I was like, fuck, I can't lose this guy. And then it was his coach's. It was the anniversary of his coach's death, the day that we fought. So he was so hungry to fuck me up, bro. And I had to come in there and I had to fuck that fool up. Yeah. But the stare off was weird. And then I stayed off with Marcus. I was 1-1. I was supposed to fight Nick Pica. He pulled out, but then I got Marcus Gaines. Marcus Gaines was like all same thing, like, hey bro, don't beat me up too bad, like acting like he was trying to like play this try to get me out of my mindset, right? Yeah. So I tried to stare him down way meaner, even though he was trying to be super nice. But I'm telling you, I try to build up a little bit of anger towards these guys, so I can hopefully have like a mini adrenaline dump where I can sustain it, but the punches don't hurt as bad as they would. Because that little, being able to sustain that adrenaline is good, but obviously you can't have it dump too hard. You want to dump a little bit, or you're not going to be physically prepared for like the violence that's coming your way. So the stare-offs are. I try to put more into the fight, like when they get in the ring, like that's like just like you said, like how you saw him that right before the fight. I try to put a little bit more into that. The face off, like when me and Charles faced off, we were facing off, we were pretty close, and then Gilbert was like, "All right, a little bit closer," and I felt like we were gonna bump dicks, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, "Damn, Charles, we gotta bump dicks," you know what I'm saying? And then he chuckled a little bit, and then we kind of smiled and shit, and then. That was one moment, right? But then in the fight, we had a very intense stare off. But I felt like it was forced on his end. I felt like he was doing it, trying to match my energy, but it wasn't the real Charles, And so I kind of felt that in there, and I was like, okay, bro. Like he had promoted some things. He said that it was gonna rain acid and sulfur. He had said a couple things in the promotion to the fight. And I really didn't think that was going to happen. I thought that I was going to be the aggressive one. He was going to be the pretty one, Yeah. And I think like that stare off right before the fight kind of showed me like, all right, bro, like I am going to bring the aggressive one. Yeah. Like, I am bringing this shit right now.
I love that, man.
He brought it hard, but I think my mindset kind of like overwhelmed his at that time. So the face off, I do enjoy it. I try to kind of get in their head a little bit, but I put like way more into like how I see him in the ring.
Because the fight. 2 weeks, next month is your show. So talking about switches, how we have to turn it on and turn it off. How are you dealing with all this promotion stuff right now when you literally have a fight and you're not just in a fight, you're main eventing this event. And then also the next month, it's back to work.
It's easy now. It's easy for me now. When I made my debut, the Daniel Compton Central Coast Fighting Championships debut, I had a huge LFA fight the weekend before. I was buying my cage, but I had to pick it up in LA. So when I went down there to fight, I can't remember his name right now, Billy Alicana. I went down to fight Billy Alicana, and Ivan came with me. I fought him, right, but we're homies now, and he helped corner me. But we rented a truck, and we drove the truck down to LA, fought Billy Alicana, picked up the cage the next day, drove it. I had been promoting both fights the whole time, my show and the fight that I'm fighting on. Picked up the cage, drove it back, put all the little last details together, and then had my first event the very next weekend, right? So I've kind of always, and then we talked about it a little bit off air, how they kind of work together, my fights and the promotion. So I'm promoting myself, but I'm also promoting my show. And I'm already having to be out there on social media and do all this talking. So they kind of work together. And so I feel like this is kind of the same way. While there's all these eyes on me for Scott and Gilbert's event, I'm taking the opportunity to kind of plug my event a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Once the fight is done, and I've sold the tickets I need to sell for Scott and Gil, and I've done my part as the main event and promoting, then it's going to be full bore, my show. Yeah. But I am trying to put most of my effort into their event and the platform they've given me as the main event. But as soon as that's done, and a little trickles of my show too, of course, but as soon as that's done, bam, it's going to be full go, my show. That's when I'm probably going to start dropping the interviews for my show. I'm not going to worry about the interviews until after my fight. But then after my fight, you guys are going to get all the interviews, way more content, and we're going to be building up that show sick.
Well, brother, we hit an hour, my man, and I want to be very, very respectful of your time, brother. So I have 2 more questions for you, okay? Yeah. So let's say this is Daniel Compton's show, High Value Discussions. If there was one question that you had for me, what would it be?
When you fought for Bellator, were they both at the SAP? Mm-hmm. Do you miss it?
I do miss it. But I would say the trajectory has changed so much where I'm more in love with these ventures than that, even though I do miss it heavily. It's so strange. I probably think about it daily, because I would say the reason why I think about it daily is because I bring that same intensity into all the other ventures that I'm doing. So it's almost very relatable where I know what that feeling is like, where it's like, oh, I have to show up for something, but that came from fighting. If I was prepping for a fight, even if I wasn't preparing for a fight, I had to show up all the time. And when I show up all the time for these things, it reminds me of that feeling of like, oh, this is training camp. Oh, this is prep. This is what it is to get better. I'm callousing, I'm molding, I'm sculpting myself. So I do miss it, man, all the time. And every time I go, a training partner hits me up, like, hey man, can we move around a little bit? Or even when I'm training, I'm getting older. And I feel to this day, I'm more dangerous than ever. That's why I miss it even more, because it's like, man, I still can compete. And I moved around recently at a gym locally, and there was these young guys who were preparing for a fight. And it was just like, man, nothing went away. Nothing went away. Like I don't believe in ring rust. I think it's a stupid term, like when people like haven't fought in a long time, et cetera. And it's like, oh, I was rusty. I don't believe in that. I think it's all like this now. It's still there, like that feeling, that ability, the drive. But back then, something that I didn't have then that I have now is this guy. Yeah. Because physically, I knew I can do whatever I want. Back then, I thought I was confident. It grew a little bit to a different level now, but I'm able to harness that. So I feel like if I was still fighting, man, physically, I know I can do whatever I want. Mentally, now I know I can do whatever I want. And putting those two together right now, if I was competing, would be a great feeling. And it's almost like I wish I can feel that again to see if I am what I say I am again. You know what I mean? It's very strange. I do miss it, and I still question it all the time, man. Could I do one more? Could I do one more? But it would put a pause on everything else. And could I really afford to put a pause on the things that I'm doing now? I don't think so. For something that I already know what it's like to feel. But I miss it all the time, man. I miss it all the time. It's one of the best chapters of my life, man. And those principles and those aspects that I took from fighting, I take it into everything else. So that's why I'm so appreciative of the fight game. I love the fight game. I love promoting people who are in the fight game, because it's like, man, it gives you something. It gives you this greatest gift for you personally, that everything you do afterwards, after the fight game, it's like, man, life will reward you because you are constantly showing up for it. But where did that come from? Fighting. It came from the training room. It came from literally being so consistent. And if you bring those same principles into any other venture, brother, you will be successful. And that's what I'm feeling now. And that's why it's like, I can't stop doing this and go backwards again. So it's weird, right? It's a weird push and pull that I deal with a lot, but I'm more in love with these ventures rather than what I did in the past, even though I love it and I'll never stop loving it. It's like a healthy divorce, healthy separation. You know what I mean? Like where we're still talking, we're still hanging out, we're still, chitter-chatting, but it's like, I'm not in love with you anymore. I have to be away from you so I can put myself at a different position. So definitely miss it. It would be very, very interesting to do it again, but Jesus, That's a wild one. That's a
No,
wild
I'm
question.
proud of you for what you've done, bro. I'm proud of
Yeah,
you. You know, to be able to take that experience and grow from it and learn,
Yeah.
and then take it on into your future endeavors, right?
Yeah.
I honestly wish I could, bro. Because, bro, you know, I'm not making money like that, dog. It's not like it's not paying the bills, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm literally doing it to fuel my ego, or it's very strange, but I'm looking forward to when I can hang it up and move on and then rest my brain, really, because it's the brain that takes the most punishment. I mean, my body as well, but it's my brain, and I want to be articulate, and I want to be able to do it for a long time. You know, have my brain for the rest of my life, and I constantly struggle. I sport hard, constantly struggle with those things, and it's just hard to stop. But, like, you know, Brendan Schwab is like, a lot of people have done it successfully, and I try to learn from them and learn from you, the people that have learned from it, grown, had great careers, and then move on. And I'm excited for when I get to do that. It's not going to be this one, but I think it is going to be somewhat soon, you know. And no, bro, proud of you, dog.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that trajectory, because I love seeing people who are pro athletes and pro fighters change their trajectory. I love seeing that, man, especially from like former teammates. When I see them jump into something, I'm like, take those same principles, take those same attributes. It will reward you. Show up for it all the time. And my friend, the fruits will come. So my brother, my very last question for you, in all your experiences as a man, in all your experiences as a fighter, as a professional, as a promoter, and as a dangerous man, what is the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
The greatest lesson I've ever learned. Damn. It's hard. You know, it's a weird one, but it's just always be good to your mom, bro. Always be good to your parents, but especially your mom. You know, we forget like how much our parents have done to put us in the position that we're in, you know, and especially our mom. And it not take anything away from the dads, you know, they're of course there as well, but then it's a different feeling. And I've been through, you know, ups and downs with my family and my mom, and obviously she didn't want me to fight, and then it got rocky for a minute when I really wanted to fight, and they wanted me to retire when I was an amateur. They wanted me to stop, and then so I went pro, you know, without their consent, and it was some hard times, you know, with my parents trying to, you know, they helped me through school. And then I wasn't working in my field because I wanted to fight. And so I was working at FedEx, and it got real rough for a little bit there. And always, you know, remember your parents have their best interests for you, and they've put so much time and effort into you. I don't have any kids yet, so I can't tell you how it's going to feel. I don't know, but apparently it's going to feel, I'm going to know when it comes. But just always have your parents back through all the ups and downs. Just be there for your family. It's the most important. And then hopefully everything else will prosper in your life.
Agreed. My brother, are there any closing statements you'd like to give for the podcast, my man?
Thank you to my sponsors, bro. Kook Slayer, Sidey 4 Height Construction, Coast Rehab, all my sponsors, bro. Everyone that takes, there's more. I can't remember them right now, bro, but they really help me out. It's not easy financially to put all these things together, and so they help with the show, they help with my fights, and I'm just really appreciative of all the people that help and all the supporters that I have.
Yeah. Well, brother, I really appreciate your time, my man. Like, I know what this life is like, and I know how exhausting and grueling it is, and for you to put your time into this is our first time meeting, and you're like, you know what, yeah, I'm down to come down and, you know, talk my shit, etc. You did not have to do this, brother. I know how busy it is and hectic it is, so I truly appreciate your time and being here and promoting yourself and giving the value that you did. And my man, go be great in 2 weeks. But my man, I'm fucking proud of you, everything you're doing. Go be great, and I can't wait for all the success coming your way, my man. Thank you for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.